Can you say why America is the greatest country in the world?
Diversity and opportunity.
Lewis?
Freedom and freedom. So let's keep it that way.
Well, why is America
Not the greatest country in the world, Professor. That's my answer.
You're saying...
Yes.
Let's talk about...
Fine. Sharon, the NEA is a loser. Yeah, it accounts for a penny out of our paycheck, but he gets to hit you with it anytime he wants. It doesn't cost money. It costs votes. It costs airtime and column inches. You know why people don't like liberals? Because they lose. If liberals are so fucking smart, how come they lose so goddamn always?
Hey.
This is Jeff Daniels in HBO's show The Newsroom, playing a character by the name of Will McAvoy. And this is one of my favorite tirades, speeches, however you want to label this outburst of emotion in television history for a few reasons that we'll get into a little bit later. This dialogue was written by the acclaimed Hollywood scriptwriter Aaron Sorkin. This particular section that I've paused at is significant because what Aaron had stated in writing this speech is he wanted to make it very clear to listeners that Will, the character that we're listening to, is completely, unabashedly, unreservedly sharing his true feelings. And that's why he's introduced the swear words. And that vulgarity is this pivot point to indicate that the filter's off.
And with a straight face, you're going to tell students that America is so star-spangled awesome that we're the only ones in the world who have freedom? Canada has freedom. Japan has freedom. The UK, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Australia, Belgium has freedom. So 207 sovereign states in the world, like 180 of them have freedom.
All right.
And yeah, you, sorority girl, just in case you accidentally wander into a voting booth one day, there's some things you should know. And one of them is, there is absolutely no evidence to support the statement that we're the greatest country in the world. We're 7th in literacy, 27th in math, 22nd in science, 49th in life expectancy, 178th in infant mortality, 3rd in median household income, number 4 in labor force, and number 4 in exports. We lead the world in only 3 categories: number of incarcerated citizens per capita, number of adults who believe angels are real, and defense spending, where we spend more than the next 26 countries combined, 25 of whom are allies.
This fact dump that Will McAvoy is engaging in, it serves several purposes. It sounds like it is this production line of statistics that he's making up to support his argument, and given our political climate, there might be some truth to that. But what it does is it reveals him to be exceptional at the knowledge that he possesses. What normal person is going to have these kind of stats at their fingertips? It also allows him, from a rhetorical perspective, to change the prosody of his speech. Prosody is a term that is typically used to reference the delta and the variety in your tone. Something that has a lot of prosody will typically have a lot of high moments where it's intensely charged and there's a lot of emphasis on your voice, and then you'll pull back the reins and be a little bit more soft-spoken. This fact up gives him these almost different chords in his tirade that he can break up and characterize and flavor with different amounts of energy.
Now, none of this is the fault of a 20-year-old college student, but you nonetheless are, without a doubt, a member of the worst generation ever. So when you ask what makes us the greatest country in the world, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
He really breaks the structure there. Worst generation ever. It's a creative choice of words. What is almost ironic about that is the way in which that girl likely would communicate on social media or in chat. It's internet speak. Someone will say this video is incredible, It's additional emphasis. It is a weight associated with the words that is illustrated not just through the words, but by a point of grammatical punctuation, that being the period. And so in a way, what Will is doing is speaking her language in a very creative way, but taking her, the sorority girl, and putting her under this umbrella of this kind of speak that he's using as a slight against her to illustrate that it's partially the ignorance that her generation is associated with that has led to his frustration with the state of America.
When you ask what makes us the greatest country in the world, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Yosemite? sure used to be. We stood up for what was right. We fought for moral reasons. We passed laws, struck down laws for moral reasons. We waged wars on poverty, not poor people. We sacrificed. We cared about our neighbors. We put our money where our mouths were, and we never beat our chest. We built great big things, made ungodly technological advances, explored the universe, cured diseases, and we cultivated the world's greatest artists and the world's greatest economy.
Notice the alliteration in some of these sentences. Will says, we waged wars on poverty, not poor people. There's the consonant P being repeated a few times. We sacrificed. We cared about our neighbors. We put our money where our mouths were. There's the letter M. We never beat our chest. We built great big things. There's 3 G's and 3 B's there. Made ungodly technological advances, explored the universe, cured diseases, and cultivated the world's greatest artist and the world's greatest economy. Of course, he could have simply said the world's greatest artist and greatest economy, but he really wanted to solidify the point of contention that is the undercurrent for this speech, and that is the fact that America does not hold the hegemony that everyone else on the panel wants to associate it with.
We reached for the stars, acted like men. We aspired to intelligence. We didn't belittle it. It didn't make us feel inferior. We didn't identify ourselves by who we voted for in the last election, and we didn't scare so easy. We were able to be all these things and do all these things because we were informed by great men, men who were revered. First step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one. America is not the greatest country in the world anymore. Enough?
What I find remarkable about this speech is that it almost plays like a song. It's like music. He starts by, if you will, hitting a wrong note, saying something that is dissenting to the common voice in the room. And that's, of course, the point that America is not the greatest country in the world. And then he starts throwing out some chords, some facts, and he's building. All of this is coalescing to a climax, the impetus of a crescendo. And we have this, I keep coming back to this word tirade, but this outburst of anger and frustration and disappointment at America. And then at the very end, he comes to a resolution where those same emotions are still present, but they're dampened with sadness and a deeper sense of disappointment. And he caps those emotions with the sentence he ends with: America is not the greatest country in the world anymore. I don't want to comment too much on the politics of this. I think there's a lot of truth to what he says. And with each generation, as Ronald Reagan would say, the beacon of freedom and liberty has to be relit by each generation. And each generation of American citizens do have the opportunity to make this generation in this country the best country in the history of the world, or we can make this generation the last. It does require an active vigilance and awareness and a discipline to preserve the qualities of liberty, freedom, justice that have been handed down and fought for by those who have lived before us. What's interesting about this speech is it is heavily laden with America visuals. I like this description of America is so star-spangled awesome. He also says, we reached for the stars. There are a lot of visual descriptions that really make this speech germane to this country. You couldn't have said this in China, regardless of even having the platform to do so. It is relevant, crafted to the audience. And all of those different components converging together in this environment is what makes this an incredible presentation, one to both watch and listen to, and I hope you found this video interesting.